Hello and welcome to another Cliff Reviews Art House. This time I'm reviewing The Red Shoes, the 1948 film, directed by Michael Powell and Emeric Pressburger. So The Red Shoes is widely considered to be a cinematic masterpiece. Powell and Pressburger seem to be so revered, but on the basis of this film, I'm not 100% certain why. To be fair, I don't think that I've seen any other Powell and Pressburger films. I guess it is possible that the experience of The Red Shoes may be different in the context of knowing their work better. All I can do is give the perspective of someone watching this as a standalone work in 2024. Actually, I have seen Michael Powell's Peeping Tom, which I thought was a really excellent film. But apparently this ended his career, so clearly this is something different than a Powell and Pressburger film. The first point to make is that The Red Shoes seems so old-fashioned. Of course, this may seem a strange thing to say as it was released in 1948, but I really don't feel like it's aged well. The dialogue seems really dated, it's not naturalistic at all, and the accents are so posh. Or the accents all use received pronunciation to say this in a posh way. In other words, many of the characters speak like the British royal family. Perhaps it's unfair to make this point in terms of considering whether it is a cinematic masterpiece or not. In its day, it probably is the case that this would have been seen as an ordinary contemporary film, but today it just seems quite dated. I guess this is the case for a lot of films from the 30s and 40s. I know that, for its day, the cinematography of Jack Cardiff is considered to be revolutionary. In a world of mainly black and white films, this film really is a colour explosion. It's as colourful and joyous as a Baz Luhrmann film, so this is another positive. Of course, the highlight of this film is the 15-minute ballet sequence. I'm really not sure that it still is amazing looking at it today. I do appreciate how the film has some really interesting special effects. You really have the feeling that they pushed the technology boundaries as far as was possible for the day. I like the shot where Vicky sees the red shoes and imagines them on herself. There's a clever trick used here with transparency. So much harder to do than I imagine compared to using a button in Final Cut or Premiere Pro that instantly changes the opacity. I also like where she sees the two men in place of the dancer and the shot where we get a POV view through the dancer's eyes. What does still come across is that this isn't just a straightforward representation of the ballet. The film is definitely a visual experience, but it is also as much about Vicky's psychological state as it is about the outward performance. This does feel quite sophisticated even to today's eye. I think when you take into account when it was made, the ballet scene is clearly breathtaking. It's still actually pretty good, to be fair. It's definitely by far the most interesting part of the film. Thematically, the film is about the conflict between artistic ambition and personal happiness. If you give yourself to your art, how available are you to life outside your art? How can anything else have that level of meaning? Can love and art coexist? It's an interesting exploration of obsession and the cost of artistic greatness. Lermontov, the ballet director, represents the merciless drive for perfection, while Julian Craster, the young composer, kind of embodies a really passionate but perhaps naive idealism of an up-and-coming talented artist. I like this theme quite a lot actually, so overall I did find the story interesting. The gender dynamics of this film are really dated by today's standards. Vicky's character, while she's definitely central to the narrative, she is perhaps ultimately controlled by the men around her, Lermontov and Craster. But I guess this is a function of the patriarchal society of the time. There's a bit of a potential Me Too in the film as well. Lermontov clearly requires his dancers to be single and is perhaps jealous when they have any love interest. He leaves the scene angrily where one of his main dancers announces she's getting married. Of course, this falls far short of sexual harassment, but it is an abuse of his power to impose conditions on the personal life of his superstar dancers. Again, though, it is a product of its time, so I don't think we can really judge it by today's standards. At the same time, I don't think we can just ignore these issues just because the films were made in a different era. In conclusion, I think The Red Shoes is a really richly layered work that combines an interesting narrative, performance, and a visual artistry to explore profound and interesting themes. It's a film that communicates on multiple levels, including psychologically and in terms of a sensual feast. However, it does have serious weaknesses for me, which are all a result of the era in which it was made. I do find the affected accents make it seem so old-fashioned and at times over melodramatic. Watched today, this takes away from the interesting aspects of the film, and I personally don't feel like it's a classic in terms of blowing me away. Overall, however, I would say it's definitely worth a watch. It certainly wouldn't disappoint for a Saturday afternoon old film treat. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.